Amazing grace. Happy Wednesday, friends. I'm Andy Ross, pastor at Northminster Church in Tucson, Arizona. Amazing Grace is perhaps one of the most beloved hymns and songs of history. You would think that a tune like Amazing Grace would have been written by a incredible, pure, upstanding Christian individual, but it was really written by a slave trader, John Newton. He was a slave trader, operated ships. It was his business. Here's the interesting thing. John Newton became a Christian, and it was only years later, after becoming a Christian, years later, he at last realized the horror of his business. It didn't happen all at once. John Newton would go on towards the end of his life to say that his slave trading work was the greatest humiliation of his life. On his tombstone, it would say, "I am a great sinner. I have a great Savior." This week, each morning, I've been wanting us to think about sanctification. And today, on this Wednesday, I want you to think carefully about how God's grace, which is amazing, brings about course corrections, changes of direction in our life after we become a Christian. As we follow Jesus, as we think about the events of this world, the Spirit helps us to see in new ways how we are living and where and how we need to make changes. Grace saved a wretch like me. But what's amazing is also grace continues to course correct me. This last week, we saw another tragic death of a black man. We've been hearing in the news the expressions of Black Lives Matter. It's a movement. It's a movement that I hope helps me see with more clarity, live with greater heart, and act in more just ways. And I'm praying that that is true for our nation. John Newton, after becoming a Christian, and after then years later realizing what he was doing as a slave trader, he spent the remaining years of his life working hard in the abolitionist movement in Britain, a movement that didn't result in a war, but it resulted in the abolition of slaves and the ending of the slave trade business for Great Britain. Friends, as we journey in our life with Jesus, be ready for course corrections. Keep your eyes open to how you're living and walking with Jesus and how he's wanting to direct your steps in ways of God's justice, hope, and new life in the love of Christ. Listen to the next words here in Paul's letter to the Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 13. "When I was a child, I talked like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, when I grew up, I put the ways of childhood behind me. For now we see only a reflection as in a mirror. Then, one day, we shall see face to face." How is God growing you, even on this Wednesday? How is he opening your eyes to new directions of his faithfulness, his truth, and his abiding, amazing grace? Some of my favorite lyrics of that tune are, "And grace will lead me home." God's grace will lead you home, but it will very likely take you in new directions each step. Happy Wednesday. Lord's blessings and grace be with you.